Okay, so as you know, we're kind of going through our final review sheet. My goal is for you to have all the correct answers so that you have a really good study guide as you are studying for your final. Today we are going to cover numbers 26 through 46. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and turn in your packet to number 26. As you can see up at the top of your notes, it says that you may use a calculator for this portion of the final. So remember, part of it, you cannot use a calculator, and then this second half, you will be able to use a calculator. So let's talk about these first. It says use the percent equation to solve. Do you guys remember what the percent equation is? P times of equals is. If you guys would, if you don't have it there in your study guide already, I want you to write down P times of equals is. Now, long ago, I taught you this in chapter 6.3. So if you want to, on the side, you can write down that this came from 6.3. If you feel like you're having a hard time with this, go back to that section, re-listen to the video so that you can remember how to use the percent equation to solve things. But there are three different parts to this question. It says, what percent of 95 is 76? We want to separate it into the is, the of, and the p. So I'm going to underline what percent, that's going to be my p. Then I'm going to circle of 95, that will be my of, and then I'll underline is 76. If you forgot to circle and underline your original problem on number 26, I want you to go ahead and do that for me now, just so it triggers back in your mind that you'll remember to do that on your actual final. So now let's plug in our P, of, and is. Kaylin, what is the P? It's just P because we don't quite know it yet. What's my of? 95, so I have to multiply that by 95 equals, what's my is? 76. Good job. Now, Kaylin, how do I get P by itself? Divide by 95, okay? And we're going to do that on both sides. On the left-hand side, this is going to cancel out, and I am just left with P equals. What do I do with this now, Kaylin? I divide it. What is 76 divided by 95? 0.8 is correct. Now, this P right here tells me I don't want it as a decimal. I want it as a what, class? A percent, okay? So, Kaylin, how do I turn that into a percent? Good job. Put in that 0 as a placeholder, and what's our final answer? 80% is correct. How many of you would say you got that correct? All right, if you did not get it correct, just erase it and fix it. Let's move on. Let me have Samantha. What do I need to circle and underline? We're just working from left to right. You want to have an of, an is, and a P in every single one of those things. Okay, we'll underline the is. That's my is. Okay, and then what's in the middle? Okay, so now all we've done is we've separated the is, the of, and the P. Samantha, remind me again, what's the percent equation? Okay, so in your notes, it looks like it doesn't ask us for the percent equation. Now it's wanting us to use the what? Percent proportion, okay? Now you can get the same answer, but this is showing us at least two different ways that we can do it. So Samantha, what is the percent proportion? Very good. What is my is? X, since we don't know it. What's my of?
22.
What's my P?
40.
Okay, so it's 40 over 100. All right, now how did you solve this to get X by itself?
I did it wrong. I know I did that.
Okay, that's all right if you did it incorrect. Do you know how to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so with cross products, tell us what you did.
I multiplied 22 and 40, and then I took that and divided it by 100.
Okay, so what is 22 times 40? 880. And then you said you divided it by 100?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you divided it by 100, what did you get? How many of you would say you got 8.8 as your answer also? Okay, very good. Any questions about how she did number 27? All right, so the question that was asked is, should I turn that into a percent? No, because if you go back to the original problem, this is what it says. What number? So since it's asking for a number, you do not want it to be a percent. Okay, that was a good question. All right, moving on to number 28. It says to find the interest. Do you guys remember what the formula is when we're trying to find interest? I equals PRT, okay? So if you go way back when, let's see, this was from chapter 6.6. So if you want to, go ahead and write that in your notes if you want to go back and study this when you're studying. There's some formulas that you need to have memorized. Question number 25 had a bunch of formulas. Maybe make yourself some flashcards or something that can help you because you do want to have those memorized for the final exam. So as we're doing this, let's just plug in the I, the P, the R, and the T. I stands for interest. What's the interest, guys? There isn't any. If you go back here, it says to find it. So we don't know what it is. So I'm just going to put a question mark. P. Do you guys remember what that P stands for? Principal. The principal is the starting dollar amount that you have. Does it tell us the starting dollar amount?
Yes.
What is it? $200. Write that down. The R. What does the R stand for? The rate. Do you guys remember what rate always looks like?
2.5.
Not a decimal. A percent. Your rate should be a percent, okay? So what's our percent? 2.5%. Now, some of you, I think, were saying decimal because you know we have to turn that into a decimal. What would that be if I turned it into a decimal? Good job. It just moves over to the left 2 times, and then it's going to equal 0.025. Finally, the T, what does that stand for?
Time.
The time. What does the time have to be in?
Years.
It has to be in years. Does our original problem say it's in years?
Yes.
Yes, it does. So I can just simply put a 3. Now all I need to do is plug in for this up here, the I, the P, the R, and the T. Let me just move this over a little bit. All right, do we know our I?
No.
No, so I'm going to just keep it as an I. Do we know the P?
Yes.
What is the P? $200. Notice all I'm doing is just plugging in for those letters. Do we know the R?
Yes.
What's the R?
0.025.
Okay, very good. Thank you for telling it to me as a decimal. When we plug it in, you always want it to be a decimal. And finally, do we know the time?
Yes. 3 years.
Okay, so plug that in times 3. Now all you have to do is just multiply it across. Elijah, when you multiplied it across, what did you get? Okay, 15. Now interest is a form of money. So what do you think our units need to be, Elijah? $15 is correct. Any questions on how we found that interest? All right, we're going to do one more problem that looks just like that. Once again, we are going to start off with our formula. When finding the interest, everybody, what do I do for my formula? I equals P times R times T. Now, if you don't want to, you don't have to fill out this whole part right here. You can if it helps you to organize the material, but you do not have to, okay? So instead, we know that we are looking for the I, so I'm just going to keep that I right there. Next up, let's talk about the P. What does the P stand for again?
Principal.
The principal. Do we know the principal?
Yes.
$800. The rate. What's the rate that it tells us? 5%. So we have to change that 5% to a decimal. What would that be changed to a decimal? 0.05. Okay, if your notes don't look like this, please make sure you are erasing it and fixing it. Now let's talk about the T. What does the T stand for?
Time.
The time. What does our time say?
6 months.
6 months. What's wrong with that?
It has to be in years.
It has to be in years. Guys, how many months are in a year? 12. So we have 6/12 of a year. Can that be reduced
Yes.
to what? 1/2. What would that be as a decimal? 0.5, okay? So 0.5 of a year or half of a year. So we're also going to multiply that by 0.5. How many of you would say that was a part that you forgot about, the months? As I looked around, a lot of people just plugged in a 6, and they multiplied times 6, and then they got the wrong answer, okay? Instead, when we multiply this out, Journey, what do you get? $20 is correct. Raise your hand if you got that right on your own. How many of you would say you got part of it right, but you mixed up on a little bit? Okay, that's all right. Now remember, this is a multiple choice exam for your final, so there is no partial credit. You either get it right or you don't get it right. Okay, there will be 50 questions on it, and each one will be worth 2 points each. Let's move on to the next one, number 30. Solve the inequality and graph the solution. First things first, we want to get that variable by itself. Dalton, what do I need to do to get y by itself? You are correct. We're going to add 5 to both sides. What do you get for your answer, Dalton? Okay, read me the whole answer, including the y. Y is?
Greater than 13.
Okay, very good. Ethan, help me to graph this.
Put 13 on the middle, 14 on the right, 12 on the left, and make it
Should it be open or closed circle?
open,
Open circle, and is the arrow going to the right or to the left?
right.
To the right, because all solutions are greater than 13. Very good. Who would like to help me with number 31? Angel. My whole goal is to get x by itself. Who is x's best friend? -2. So I don't want you to touch that -2 yet. What should I do first? Subtract by 5 on both sides. And I'm left with -2x is greater than or equal to, what is it? 14. Okay, now how do I get x by itself? Divide by -2. Once again, notice he did not say just to divide by 2. Because there is a multiply by -2 there, he divided by -2. This cancels out. What am I left with, Angel? Greater than or equal to -7. Now, do I need to flip the sign? Yes. Why should I flip the sign? Very good. The last thing I did was divide by -2 on both sides, which means I need to flip the symbol. Okay, let's go ahead and graph this. Brooke, what number should go in the middle? What is one smaller than -7? Not -6. -8. What's one bigger? Open or closed circle? Okay, because it can be equal to this -7, it is a closed circle, and all solutions are less than, so should it go to the left or to the right? To the left is correct. Any questions on 30 and 31? All right, let's go ahead and turn to the next page. This next page, a lot of people were saying, I have no clue how to do this and I don't remember how to do this. This comes way back from chapter 5. So if you want to go back in your notes, you can go to 5.3. There's a couple different ways that we can do a problem like this, okay? So we're trying to find out if they form a proportion. A proportion simply means do they equal each other, okay? So you can do this by using cross products. This means 4 times 24. And we're trying to figure out, does it equal 6 times 18? If these two equal each other, then yes, they form a proportion. If they do not equal each other, then no, they do not form a proportion. Just the girls, what's 4 times 24?
96.
96. Boys, what is 6 times 18? What is it? 108. Class, does that equal each other?
No.
No. So the correct answer here, when it asks us, does this form a proportion? The answer would be no. How many of you would say that was the way that you did the problem? Was there anyone who did it a different way? Did anyone use mental math? Okay, let me show you how you could do this with mental math. If I come back here to the original problem, where it says 4 over 6 equals 18 over 24. Let's just see if we can find a missing link. Guys, how would I get from 6 to 24?
Times
Multiply it by 4, okay? So remember, in order to be equivalent, these need to equal the same thing. So if I multiply 4 times 4, does that equal 18? No. So this is another way to say this did not work out. So no, once again, the answer right there, this did not form a proportion. So let's look at the next one. 27 to 6 and 9 to 2. The first thing you want to do is make these into fractions. Does 27 over 6 equal 9 over 2? Let's see if we can find a missing link. This right here. How would I get from a 6 to a 2? Divide by 3, because 6 divided by 3 equals 2. Let's see if the same thing works up here. Guys, what's 27 divided by 3? 9, because it does equal 9. The answer would be yes, this equals a proportion. If you wanted to also, you could have multiplied this out, 27 times 2, and then you would want to see, does it equal 6 times 9? Guys, what's 27 times 2? 54. What is 6 times 9?
54.
Does 54 equal 54?
Yes.
Yes, so that also tells you that this would equal a proportion. Any questions on how we did 32 and 33? How many of you would say you did not remember how to do that, but you understand it now? Okay, let's move on. Modeling real life. You can type 350 characters in 75 seconds, and your friend can type 400 characters in 100 seconds. Do these rates form a proportion? You want to go ahead and set up a fraction once again. 350 characters over what?
75 seconds.
75 seconds. We want to see if that equals the other side. What should I write on the other side?
400 characters and 100 seconds.
400 characters per 100 seconds. All right, couple different ways you can do this. For me right now, I think I'm going to go ahead and do cross products. What should I do for that part that I just highlighted? Multiply it. 350 times 100. And then the other side,
400.
75 times 400. Kalani, what is 350 times 100? 35,000. Daniel, what's the other side? All right, 30,000. Class, do those equal each other?
No.
No, they do not. So do you think they form a proportion?
No.
No, they do not. All right, for the next modeling real life problem, this comes from chapter 3. This was from 3.1. So we have a few other problems in that chapter that look just like this. But this is what it says. Each person in a group buys an evening ticket, a medium drink, and a large popcorn. How much does a group of 5 people pay? All right, so let's see how we can figure this out. Who can help me? Addie, what should I do?
It should be 750 plus 275. Plus 400. No, times $4. No, plus $4.
Okay, so basically here's what she's done. We were looking for the evening ticket, and that was $7.50. Then we were looking for the medium drink, that was $2.75. And finally, we were looking for a large popcorn, which was $4. So when you add those together, what do you get, Addie?
71.5.
When you add just those things together. What was it? Okay, $14.25. Now, this is how much it would cost for one person to go and get a movie ticket, a drink, and a popcorn. But not only one person went. Addie, how many people went? 5. So what do I have to do?
Multiply by 5.
Okay, so we're going to take that $14.25, multiply it by 5 people, and what do you get?
$71.25.
That's where you had that final answer. Does that seem like a cheap date? No. That sounds like an expensive evening to go and watch a movie.
Maybe it's like a super cheap concert. Or
I think this is for a movie. Yep. All right, movie tickets actually nowadays are even more expensive than $7.50. How many of you have gone to see a movie recently? How many of you, it's been a long time since you went to see a movie? All right, let's move on. Find the selling price. So you go to the store and they say, today it has a discount. Are we happy or are we sad when we have a discount? Happy. Why are we happy? It's less dollars, so you get to save your dollars for other things, okay? So if you wanted to do this a long time ago, I said you could use this little formula, P times F equals is. Basically what that means is you're going to take the percent and you're going to multiply it by the of, or the whole amount that's there. So guys, what should I do with that percent?
Change it to a decimal.
Change it to a decimal. What is 30% as a decimal? 0.30 or 0.3. Multiply it times the total amount of the original price. Daniel, how much was it originally? $105. So Emma, when you multiply that together, what do you get? $31.50. Is this my final answer? No. What is that? That is the discount. This is how much money you get to take off of the original price. Unfortunately, with only a 30% discount, it would not go all the way down to $31.50 total. So, Caitlin, what should I do? You are correct. Okay, when you subtract that, what is the new sale price? $73.50 is correct. And that is what our total price is. Okay? Let's move on. The next one, number 37. The store went out and bought something for $70, but they marked it up. Do we feel happy or sad when they mark things up? Why? They raised the price. Why do they raise their prices? They have to make money, okay? In order for them to pay their employees and other things, they have to make some kind of a profit. So help me with this one, please, Elijah. Okay, what do you get when you do 0.25 times $70? 17.5. What is 17.5 as far as dollars and cents? $17.50. Okay, is that the new price? No, what is that?
That's how much is marked up.
That's the markup. So how do I find, as it says up here, what the selling price would be? You add it. Very good. When you add $70 plus $17.50, Elijah, what do you get? Very good. $87.50. Raise your hand if you got both of those correct. Okay, there's another way that I taught you long ago. If you wanted to find the markup, I said, remember, everything comes out of 100%. Actually, I'm not going to show you that way for right now. That was more if we wanted to do it with the discount. Okay. We're just going to move on to number 38. You estimate that there are 150 Skittles in a jar. The actual amount is 80 Skittles. Find the percent error and round to the nearest whole percent. Do you guys remember what the percent error formula is?
Amount of error.
The amount of error. If you don't have this in your notes, I want you to write this down. The amount of error divided by the actual amount. Okay, this is going to be another one of those formulas that you want to have memorized from question number 25. And this comes way back from section 6.4 if you want to go back and study this kind of a problem. All right, so the amount of error, here's the deal. You said by looking at a jar, I think there's 150, but there were not 150. How many were there? 80. How much error did you have? How far off were you in your guessing game?
70.
70. How'd you figure that out? Okay, you took what you guessed and you subtracted the actual amount. Now it says divide it by the actual amount. Remind me again, guys, how many Skittles were actually there?
80.
There were 80. Okay, so you told me 150 minus 80 is 70. Now I have 70 divided by 80. Guys, what's 70 divided by 80?
0.875.
0.875. What should I do with that decimal point?
Move it to the right side.
Move it to the right 2 times. So now I have 87.5, but what are my units? Percent. Is that my final answer?
No.
No, why not?
You have to round to the nearest whole number.
Always look back at what the instructions say. It says round to the nearest whole percent. So guys, what's the answer?
88%.
88% is correct. If you did not get that, please erase it and fix it. How many of you would say you did get that correct? Okay. Okay, for the next one, Dr. Kinder estimated that 555 people would come to the chorus concert, but he was wrong. His guess was not right. How many people were there?
600.
There were 600, so we want to find his percent of error. Once again, we're going to take the amount of error, or how much he was wrong, and divide it by what?
Actual amount.
The actual amount of people who were there. Shania, how do I find his amount of error? We minus it. Very good. Okay, so we're going to take the bigger number, 600, and subtract the 555. Shania, how many people were actually there? What was the actual amount? Very good. 600 people were there. Israel, what's 600 minus 555? 45. So now I'm going to take 45 over 600. Guys, what does this fraction bar mean? To divide. What is 45 divided by 600? 0.075. But if you remember, it comes back and it says, what was his percent of error? So, Kalani, what should I do to that 0.075? We are going to make it a percent by moving this over twice. What's the answer? 7.5%. Guys, does it ask me to round it?
Yes. No.
No, it does not ask you to round it. Okay, so always look for those instructions to make sure. Don't round something unless it asks you to round it. So the correct answer is 7.5%. Moving on. Describe the likelihood of the event. I want you to take your pencil or your red pen and just put a little cloud around that word, likelihood. So this is one of those little charts that you just want to kind of have memorized in your head of what each of those percentages mean. This is what number 40 says. There is an 80% chance of rain, a 50% chance of thunderstorms, and a 15% chance of hail tomorrow. So the rain, what was the percentage chance that it said? 80%. Guys, according to that chart up there, what's the likelihood if something says it's 80% chance of rain? It is likely that it will rain, unfortunately. The next one, thunderstorms. What percentage does it say? 50%. Guys, what is the likelihood of a 50% thing? Okay, I want you to write out that whole thing. Equally likely to happen or not happen. If you don't have that, go ahead and fill it in for me. And the next one, hail. Samantha, what's the percentage chance of hail? 15% is correct. And what's the likelihood? Unlikely, meaning it's probably not going to happen since it's only a 15% chance. How many of you would say you got all three of those correct? Okay, this comes way back from 7.1 if you want to brush up on your likelihood and your probability. Okay, we're going to continue down to number 41. Find the theoretical probability of the event and round to the nearest 10th percent. Who remembers what the theoretical probability formula is? Kalani, what is it? Favorable over total. If you don't have that written down, I want you to write that down for me, please. This comes from 7.2. Favorable is what you're looking for. Guys, how many chances do I have of getting a 4 off that spinner? There's 1 out of how many total chances? 1 out of 6 chance that that's going to happen. Guys, what's 1 divided by 6?
16.66667.
Okay, 0.166666 repeating. If I move this over, I'm now at 16.6 repeating percent. Do I need to round that?
Yes.
Yes. Which space do I need to round it to?
10.
The tenths place. Remember, the tenths place is this number directly after the decimal point. He asks his neighbor, hey, are you 5 or bigger? What's that 6 say? Yes. So what happens to the number I underlined? It goes up 1. So the correct answer is 16.7%. How many of you got that one correct? How many of you would say you got part of it, but you messed up on part of it? Okay, that's all right. Let's erase it, fix it if it's not correct, okay? Once again, you want this to be a good study guide for you. Next one, favorable over total is still what we're working with. Favorable is what you're looking for. Guys, how many even numbers, because that's what I'm looking for, do you see on the spinner? 3 out of how many total?
6.
Guys, how would you reduce 3/6?
1/2.
3/6. 3 is exactly half of 6, so it's going to be 1/2. What percentage is 1/2? 0.5, which is 50%. Do I need to round that? No, okay, because there's nothing going into the hundredths or thousandths place. We're just going to keep it as 50%, okay, which makes sense. Half of those numbers on there are even numbers, so that makes sense that it would be 50%. All right, let's move on. You roll a number on the number cube and you flip a coin. What is the probability of rolling a number greater than 3 and flipping heads? Once again, we're kind of working with favorable over total here. Let's focus on the first things first. Rolling a number greater than 3. Guys, on here, how many numbers are greater than 3? 3 of them. 3 out of how many total? 3 out of 6, okay? So we have the number 4, 5, and 6. Those are all greater than 3. Now I need to multiply that against the second thing I'm looking at, flipping heads. How many heads are on there? 1 out of 2. Now you just multiply those together. When you do that, what do you get? 3 over 12. Can that be reduced?
Yes.
To what?
1/4.
1/4. And what's the percentage that goes with 1/4? 25%. If I was to ask you the likelihood of that happening, what do you think? It is unlikely. That's probably not going to happen that you will roll a number greater than 3 and flip heads. Let's move on. You want to estimate the number of students in your school whose favorite subject is English. How many of you would say your favorite subject is English? No English lovers in here. Okay, so you go in and you survey the first 10 students who arrived to the book club. What do you think? Biased or unbiased?
Unbiased.
This is definitely a biased opinion. This comes from 8.1, and here's why. Kids who decide to join a book club probably like English. How many of you would like to be in a book club? Only 1 or 2. Okay. Here we go. Let's move on. Another one just kind of like this. You want to estimate the number of students in your school who want to get rid of the dress code. So you randomly survey 50 students in the lunchroom. What do you think, biased or unbiased?
Unbiased.
This is definitely unbiased. Now, the unbiased opinion is what we're looking for. That's a good opinion. Why? Because it's large and random. Okay, 50 students, that's a large amount, and you want it to be random. All right, we're going to do one last problem today. This still comes from section 8.1. A worker at Disney World randomly asks 125 people if Space Mountain is their favorite ride at Magic Kingdom. 94 of them say it is their favorite, and 31 of them chose different rides as their favorite. 5,000 people came to the park within the first 2 hours of the day. Estimate the number of people who say that Space Mountain is their favorite ride that arrived during the first 2 hours. So in this case, let's figure out first, we are trying to figure out the number of people who say that Space Mountain is their favorite? Guys, how many people said that Space Mountain is their favorite?
Yeah.
94. Out of how many total people did they ask? They asked 125. So if you wanted a formula for this, we taught about formulas a long time ago. You would take favorable over total equals what? N over the population. N is just what you're looking for. Okay, so now equals N, once again, that's what we're trying to guess, over the population. How many total people came to the park in the first 2 hours of the day? 5,000. How many of you remembered to do it this way? Okay, so a lot of people chose to do it with cross products, 94 times 5,000, and then 125 times N. I am much more of a mental math person. Do you guys know how to figure out how to get from a 125 to a 5,000? Multiply by 40. In order to do that, I can take the bigger number, 5,000, and divide it by 125. Then I would find my missing link is 40. So what do I have to do to find the answer? Multiply the top also by 40. Guys, what's 94 times 40? 3,760. Now this is a modeling real life problem, so I want units attached. What would it be? People is correct. All right. Normally on Wednesdays I don't give you homework, but we do have homework tonight. It is the next 10 problems, 41 through 50, okay? And we'll be checking those tomorrow. All right, good job today, guys.